Hi, this is Erin Zimmerman, owner of Elephant Social, and welcome to ChatConnect, a web series where this season I will be speaking with some badass lady entrepreneurs who are here to basically rule the world. Today I'll be chatting with Lisa Sharp, a professional organizer, space healer, and happy home creator. Her clients often say that she's part Mary Poppins and part therapist. She calls herself a therapist for your home. Now, without further ado, here I am, Erin Zimmerman, with Lisa Sharp. Okay. Well, hello, Miss Lisa Sharp. How are you?
I am fantastic. How are you, my dear?
I'm doing really well. I'm so glad that you took the time to be with us here today to chat with us. And I want to start. We're just gonna dig right in, and I want to know. It's kind of a two-part question. When you started to organize your life, were you young and you just loved doing things like that? And also, tell me a little bit about your childhood and how you think it helped you. Your childhood maybe influenced where you have the path you have taken so far in life.
It definitely did. It definitely did. Yeah, when I was a really little kid, I was really super messy. And so like my mom used to come into my room with a trash bag and like throw away dishes that I had shoved under the bed and, underwear crammed on the bookcase and all kinds of stuff. So I was really, really a messy little kid, which I just think is really funny. So I have a lot of like sincere empathy, especially for like parents that are dealing with their kids stuff, or sometimes I even work with kids, and I'm right there with you, and just like solidarity. And yeah, it can definitely be a learned skill. So, but then when I was a little older, I was like this really rebellious punk rock kid, and my secret passion was organizing stuff. I didn't tell anybody because I was like, you can't be like a cool person and like organize your closet. Those two things can't happen at the same time, right? Because that like instantly reneges your cool card.
Oh yeah, totally not cool.
But yeah, I was like, I used to like read my mom's like family circle magazines, and I would be like, flipping through the little tips. I'm like the tip queen. It's so funny. So yeah, so all of that kind of evolved, but I think part of the reason that it evolved into that, because I started out really not like that, was because I moved a lot. And I figured out, I remember very, very clearly when I was a teenager, my parents got divorced and remarried. They both lived. So I moved, gosh, like 6 times when I was growing up.
Wow.
So yeah, a lot. And like from different states too. It wasn't just like we moved across the city or into a different house or something. So they were like really big moves. So that was hard to do, of course, as a kid. And what I figured out was that I could create home wherever I was. So I would create like my own little sanctuary, my own little bedroom, wherever I went. It was like that's the first thing I was like, gotta get my room in order. And I just really found a lot of peace in that. And it helped me kind of get used to whatever I was doing, the move and making new friends and new school situations and stuff. And so that just really, really stuck with me. And nobody taught me that. I just figured it out. And it was a very helpful tool. And that's what I teach other people how to do.
Yeah, that's great. And I'm very, very relieved that it can be learned, because sometimes I feel like there's no
totally. Oh no, totally. Organizing is a learned skill set, period. Anybody can learn the basic skills of becoming organized. The hard part is decluttering. The hard part is the emotional component to your stuff. So that's why there are like a mazillion tips and tricks and entire Pinterest boards. I mean, like if you stripped out like all the organizing and decluttering stuff out of like Pinterest, there'd be like 5 things for lipstick on there. I mean, it'd be, it's like people are fascinated with this. there's a reason why like every, at the beginning of every year, we all have the same resolutions. We're going to lose 15 pounds and finally get organized.
Mhm.
There's a reason for that, right?
Yeah.
So if it were a really simple thing to do, we'd all be doing it. If it were, it's like losing weight. It's not like we don't know how to do that. It's that it's what's between our ears.
Yeah.
So organizing is the same way. And you can't organize a bunch of crap. You just can't. You just cannot do it.
Mhm.
So, you can spend all your time making all these really elaborate systems and creating, make it like really pretty and stuff, but you're not usually functioning in this space,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So like I've seen this where people are like, be like hyper organized. And I'm like, dude, you can't pay your bills because there's so much stuff.
Yeah.
It's not because you don't have the money to pay for it. It's because you've been spending all this time on, like organizing your Star Wars things from when you were, a kid.
Yeah.
And you're not functioning because everything else is just sort of, a big mess. So, and that's really the key is like, are you functioning or are you not functioning? And the less stuff you have, the easier it is to organize.
Yeah.
So less stuff equals more organization equals more functionality equals an easier life equals less stress.
Yeah.
More happiness.
Oh, I love that. So really, you're just a happiness creator.
I am. I absolutely am. Absolutely. Yeah. And the funny thing is like my parents are both psychologists. And my background is in social work. I used to be a librarian, and both of my parents
A sexy
have
librarian.
written a sexy librarian.
Yeah, look at you.
Like a total troublemaker, total troublemaker, rule bender and breaker.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I do. But yeah, it's really funny. My parents have written a lot on happiness. And for like the longest time, I was just like, that's their thing. I don't really care. And I just sort of like in my path in life, that's what I ended up doing. And so I do it through people's spaces and through their stuff, but it's the same thing. It's all about happiness.
Yeah. Well, and how's your family with that? Are they all organizers as well, or are they totally fighting the power on that one?
Are they organized? Is that what you asked?
Yeah.
Not particularly, no. And they're, they have, everybody kind of has their own path. So I don't like try to get my family to do what I do. I am really hyper about not having a bunch of stuff because it personally makes me kind of nutty. If it's in my own space, if it's in somebody else's space, it doesn't bother me at all, which people are always amazed by. They're like, oh my God, you totally freak out at my house. And I'm like, yeah, no, I really wouldn't because it's not my stuff. And I have the mental space between my stuff and your life. So it doesn't bother me. So I work in people's homes here in Atlanta and via Skype all over the world. And people be like, oh my God, it's, I'm like so stressed out. My clients, when I meet them the first time, they're like, I'm so sweaty. Oh my God, you're going to judge me. It's going to be, and I totally get that because it is extremely vulnerable to have somebody come into your space. It's like, this is our little world with like our spouses see it. Maybe our, family sees a little bit of it, but nobody else does. Like our next door neighbors are like, I'm going to meet you on the porch. Cause I don't want you to come in my house right now. Yeah. And I'm the person that comes in. Right. So it's super, super intimidating. I totally get that. But, yeah, I just don't, it doesn't really matter a small volume of stuff or a high volume of stuff. It really has to do with your happiness level and how you're functioning. I don't really care. And to me, it's like weight loss or debt reduction. They're very, very similar beast, because it's all here. Right. And then we have to actually do the work to undo whatever the issue is that we've created for ourselves. And, it just, if it's a big problem, then it just takes more time. If it's a smaller problem, it just takes less time. It doesn't really, it's like, if you're paying off $10,000 in debt versus $100,000 in debt, it's like, well, it's still debt and you still have to do it. And it's still, you just have to move through the steps, but the steps aren't going to look any different. It just means you're going to be working on it a little bit longer. So no judgment.
Now, you said organization was a secret of yours when you were rebelling. Is it your number one hobby as well as what you do, or what else do you, Lisa, like to do? What are other passions of yours?
I am such a total stuff nerd. Yeah, most of the stuff that I do outside of my business is about stuff. So it's really all the same. I'm pretty unilateral in my interests. There are variations on all these things. So I'm really fascinated with consumerism. What are the buying habits? Why do we buy the things that we buy? Why do we think that we need those things? I'm fascinated with feng shui. I know a lot about feng shui, although I don't teach it. It's something that I've integrated into my own life, and then I can help people with that a little bit because I just think it's really, really interesting. Mindfulness is super important. So I'm really interested in Buddhism and spirituality. I'm a Catholic, but I'm like a Buddhist Catholic. So I'm a little bit out there, which is again, rules, schmoles, do what you need to do. Right. And so that's what works for me. And that's what I study. So all of those things, I don't read fiction, even though I used to be a librarian and I used to read a lot of fiction. But since I started my business, I'm pretty exclusively nonfiction. I'm always learning something. I always want to be learning something. And the things that I'm drawn to are the things that influence my business and how I work with my clients. I cannot seem to divorce those things. And I don't really want to because it's a lot of fun for me.
Yeah, I totally get not reading fiction. Though I do want to reread Harry Potter. But
yes.
That's just something I just need to do because it's been a few years.
Yes.
But
I have some of those too. I'll revisit that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Revisiting things like that, yes, a lot of fun. But yes, when it comes to books, I joined a book club recently, and it's mainly because there was a group of women that are moms, and then my mom friend was like, "Hey, I think that you'd be interested in this. Do you want to join with us?" And it's turning into a lot of fiction, and so my friend was like, "You get to choose the next book. What are you going to choose?" I was like, probably not fiction. No one's going to like it. So we'll see what I come up with. And I'm like, anything to get me to continue to read, right? Because you got to learn every day. And it's not boring to me anymore. I used to hate school. And I think that's not hate it as in I'm never going to go, but I was just ready to get out. And so I think that is where the entrepreneur came up in me. And for you, where do you think the entrepreneur came up in you when you were younger?
I have I've just always wanted to do my own thing. I just, in every facet of my life, I just like doing my own thing, and I like having control over what I'm doing. And I was thinking about that recently. I just hired my 13-year-old son to work for me. Yeah. And it's so much fun because he's really into computers. And so I have been asking him to learn some stuff about my blog and formatting stuff. And he loves doing things like that. And I don't mind doing things like that. It's just really time consuming. And I have a lot of other things to be doing. So I was like, I'll just hire him. So it got me thinking about my own path and how I've always done many different things. And that's what I've created in my business. And so when I was a teenager, I went to school part-time, college part-time. And my mom, like I said, she was a psychologist, is a psychologist. And I worked in her office. So I was a part-time office manager. And so I did organizing stuff there. And then they hired me to do special projects for them. And I started doing organizing projects for them. And then I worked in another office doing like insurance stuff. And I was also a page in a library. So you can see like this is a really common thread in my life. Like I end up kind of like taking different pieces of things and then smushing them together. And then that's what I want to be doing so that I'm never bored. And it's like not intentional, but I'm like, if I can feel sort of my energy going down, or if it's starting to feel kind of repetitive, or, that there's just like, I'm getting kind of like meh in my business, it's usually because I'm not doing enough things. So I kind of have like a crazy amount of things going on at any given time, but that's the way I like it. That's my comfort zone. And so yeah, I was, explaining some of that to my son. I was like, I don't know that he would do the same thing, but just that there are a lot of possibilities, that just because people say you go to college and you do the things and that, yeah, that's one path. That's one path. And it's, it's totally legit and it's really beneficial. But you don't have to do it that way. And not doing it that way doesn't make you any less than, it just makes you different. You're just not doing what everybody else is doing. And that's totally okay.
Right. Well, and at the same time, at this point, with everything that you can do online, and all of the tools that people have available to them, age doesn't matter either. And so that's another big thing is for me. I mean, I was in the corporate world for a few years, but not long, and I made this decision. But I also want people to know that it doesn't matter how old you are. If corporate really isn't working for you, then you can do whatever you want. And we all have different paths of how to get there. And it may take you doing, putting in extra hours on your side gig for a few years before you can do anything with it. Yeah. But that's huge. And I love that you're keeping that open mind when you're raising your kids and, allowing them kind of to go on their own path. Because when I was in high school, it was high school, college, that was the steps. And I get that. And things have changed since then. Like in a few years, I don't think I'm that old, but even in the few years since then, a ton has changed around that. So even now, I don't think that my parents would be really upset if, college wasn't where my brother needed to be, kind of thing. So it's cool to watch things change like that, and for people to open their minds to new possibilities and for things to evolve like that. I love that your son is working for you. Does he get irritated with you sometimes, or is it too new at this point?
No, it's only been a couple of weeks. I'll annoy him soon enough. No, he's really hungry for it. This is the first time that he's ever been motivated by money, which is really, really funny. So he's like every night he comes home, he does his homework, we have dinner, he practices his trombone, and then he's like, he just shows up. Like he comes in the couch, right? Like right here, and he'll be like, just sort of sits there and stares at me like a cat. Yeah. It's like, you have any work for me, Mom?
Oh, I love it. I love it. Because then that probably motivates him to get all his stuff done earlier too, huh?
Absolutely. That's he's in 8th grade. That's the first time that has ever happened in his life where he's been like on it with his schoolwork. I mean, he's a good student. Don't get me wrong, but he's like me. I mean, he'll kind of wait until the last second and what else can I be doing? That sort of stuff. So so he's on it now, which is, I just think is great. So yeah, he's helping me with all kinds of stuff in my business. It's really fun to teach him that. Yeah.
Okay. And you said that you are doing a ton of things with your business. And I know just from, seeing you and talking to you that you are, and this totally isn't a business centered web series, I promise, but it keeps going that direction because so many people are so passionate about their businesses, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
That's what we need. We need more of. But I was wondering, when you say that you're doing so many things, I know recently you also came out as a coach, and you're also working on some cool new projects. Do you want to share any of that with us?
Yeah. So like I said, my background is in mental health, and I always wanted to help people. And that's like when I was a librarian, I was always helping people. Like it was never about the books, just like right now, it's like not about the stuff. That is the venue through which I coach people, but that's sort of incidental. Like, yes, I know how to organize and declutter and all of that. And obviously that's kind of my thing. Yeah. But bottom line is that it's about about helping someone become more happy. Like you said, I mean, you said it in a nutshell. So, but because my parents have PhDs and I didn't end up going that route. And I was like, after I got my master's degree, I was like, done, no more school. And like my parents are all academics. That's like their thing. And so that's been a hard thing for me to emotionally walk away from, because that's so much a part of the culture of my family, is that you go into academia and you teach and you do whatever. And education is so highly valued. So I've been kind of rebellious around that and kind of cut my own path that way. And they're all really happy for me. But to come full circle to say that I'm a coach was a little tricky for me. And it's something that there's a little part of me that's like, you don't have a doctorate. You didn't go to, like, yeah, I know, right? I know. And I know better because I've been, like, I grew up with academics. I know what that life looks like. And I know how many people get into that really don't need to be doing that sort of work. So it's kind of like being like the minister's daughter or something, where it's like you grow up in the church and you see all the ugliness from the other side of like what actually happens. And then it's like actually people that are running the church. But there's this flip side of it that people kind of like have this reverence for. And of course, understandably so, and all that. But so being on the flip side of that, I've just seen some stuff that I know better. So, but there's still a part of me that has a hard time embracing that. So that's a little internal struggle that I have that I've never really talked about. So there's a little insider tip for you. But all of that is to say is that like all of us have this, no matter what status we are, no matter what our businesses look like, whatever, we all have these insecurities. There's nothing new under the sun, right? We're all doing the same stuff. It just looks a little different. Mm-hmm. So I've been coaching the whole time I've been in my business. I mean, that bottom line, I'm a coach. So, but to actually call myself that has been different for me. And it's super fun. I mean, it's like, because to me, the easy part is the organizing stuff. The easy part is the decluttering part. I could do that in my sleep. Yeah. The good stuff is what's under all of that. Why are we actually doing the things that we're doing? What stories have we been raised with? What stories do we tell ourselves? All of that. And how to kind of pull it apart and look at it with a lot of love for ourselves. And that's, it's hard to do that. It's hard to, we're our own worst critics. Yes. So I help people kind of talk them off of those ledges and infuse their lives with more self-care. Because I'm like, I say all the time, like, taking care of your space is self-care 101. It's about you. Yep. So.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And you keep saying how you rebelled. You've rebelled by not going further in academia, and you've rebelled in other ways. And you were telling me some stories. Do you have one story in particular that you just love about your rebellious phase? And how are you still rebelling into today?
I don't know if I have a particular rebellious story. I've just, and it's not like a big, like mean, angry rebellion. It's just like that's how you're doing it. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'll be over here doing it my own way. And karma's a bitch. I have like my 10-year-old is just like that. So I'm like constantly like, yeah, okay. I just had it coming. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I can't really fight with her because I'm like, yeah, I can see your point. I agree with you. That is kind of nonsense. Yeah, okay. So, and my son is far more like, follow the rules. He's a typical firstborn, right? He's like, I want to please everybody and all of that. So it's kind of funny, but I'm sorry, I'm wandering away from your question.
You're fine. That is fine. I'm just talking.
Yeah. But yeah, I think just working for yourself is a form of rebellion. I think because, it's a lot of, it's a lot of responsibility. It's a lot to think of. It's a lot to consider. But basically you're just saying, I'm going to do this my way. And I think that's like kind of the ultimate rebellion. And yeah, so it's really fun. And sometimes I'll even catch myself doing things that I don't necessarily want to be doing because that's like the norm in my business, or that's what you're supposed to do, that sort of stuff.
Yes.
And I'll realize that I've sort of slid into that direction. And then I'm like, oh no, I really don't have to. Like I just did that recently. I had a bunch of stuff up on my website and I was like, nah, just stripped it all up. So just ripped it all down. Yeah. And it's really freeing, but of course, I like to declutter. So I love a fresh start. I love a fresh start. Yeah.
Well, everyone should like a fresh start. I just feel like you're better at it than most.
You know what I think it really is, though? I think part of it is because I have moved so many times. I have personally started over so many times that, and I really invented my own life. I decided that some of the things that happened in my family, I was like, I don't think I really want to keep carrying this. I think I want to do something different. I want this to look differently, and it can. And once I opened that door and stepped through it, I was like, oh, I really do have a lot of power here. Oh, I really have a lot of control over it. And so that's really what I talk to my clients about the most, because we get stuck, and it's not because, it's because we don't realize, it's too scary to even consider, because it's, like, crap, if I have that much power, then that means I'm kind of keeping myself stuck here. Yeah. So yeah, fresh starts are really powerful. And sometimes you just need to have somebody witness that, someone be alongside of you while you do it. Cause it's scary to strip away stuff. Mm-hmm. And I think I've done it so many times that it doesn't scare me, and I'm really comfortable with it. I'm really, really comfortable with just starting over and fresh slate, getting rid of stuff and getting rid of things that don't serve me. That's really normal for me because I've done it so many times, and that's just a skill set, and that's a muscle. The more you do it, and the more you realize that all of those negative consequences that are in your head and those things that you think are going to happen almost never do. And once you kind of get over that, it's like, oh, it's not that bad. Oh, the shitty thing that I thought might happen happened, and I lived and I walked forward, and it made me a stronger person. Okay, what's next? And you just kind of build up a tolerance for that.
Well, have you always been someone who kind of looks fear or uneasiness in the face and just moves towards it? How did you start doing that so you can coach others?
No, definitely not. That's a good question. I think it's just practice. It's just practice. And I mean, like, starting my own business, I had an Etsy business before this one. I did a lot of volunteer work before I had my Etsy business. So I've like baby stepped myself into this direction. I don't think I'm a big fan of baby stepping and not stepping off a cliff. Like, I think that people are kind of like, oh, well, I just want to completely start over. It's like, well, how about if you just start over with your daily habits? How about if you just start over by, like, just making your bed every day, or, getting rid of 5 things today, or not calling back that friend that drives you up a freaking wall, or cutting back your hours, or taking a longer lunch break, or doing something. It's like, because like I said, it's a muscle. You have to step into that. And I think that that's where the lasting change is. So I'm a really big fan of just do a little bit, sit with it, do a little bit, sit with it. And you just get better and better and better at it. And next thing you know, you turn around and you're like, oh my God, did I really just come that far? You don't even notice it. It doesn't have to be like, I'm going to run a marathon tomorrow. Oh yes, I am. I've never like, I can't walk, 3 miles, but I'm going to run a marathon, damn it, tomorrow. It's like, no. And that we're kind of sold that as a bill of goods. Like we see that a lot in the media, and we're really attracted to those stories where people do really extreme things. But the thing is they rarely show you the actual work that it takes to get from point A to point B. And it's usually lots and lots of trial and error and perceived failures. There's no such thing as failure. It's just something else you've learned. That a business motto is everything is learning. Mm-hmm. Everything is learning. It doesn't matter how fabulous, how hideous, it's all learning. And I'm moving forward from that. Sometimes you just kind of go off course, but you're still learning something.
Right. Well, and that's something that has a lot to do with mindset and what kind of mindset you're in. And I realized recently, okay, when I first started, I was just like, okay, I'm going to run this business. That's it. And then I ran into some people who are very much mindset that I thought honestly was bogus initially. And I'm not sure why. Do you have specific mindset practices that you go through daily, or is it just like a way of thinking now for you that you've kind of developed?
That's a really good question, because I know what you're talking about. And there are some people that I think of who are like really, really good about keeping their minds in the right, headspace and all that kind of stuff, and can bounce back from things really quickly. And again, I think it's a process. So I know there's nothing sexy or sleek about that, but it's the truth. So like, I have like little things like this all around my house. This is my planner. It says, believe you can, and you're halfway there.
Ooh,
and I know, can you tell I like the shine? I like a little glitter. So this is like my favorite, and I'm a total planner nerd, but like having little reminders of that every day, I think it all kind of seeps in, the things that you see day in and day out. This is why your space is so important. It really colors the way that you look at the world, because it's all subconscious, right? So the subconscious mind is always taking in what's going on. Consciously, we can't be thinking, oh, there's a pile on this chair over here and there's this other thing, but just because it takes up too much bandwidth. So it's like we think in pictures and we think in like snapshots of data. So if you can infuse some of that subconscious thinking, you just imprint some of these images, whether it's a beautiful room, something positive, something that your best friend said, and you listen to a song that, reminds you of something that happened, like it's really happy. It just kind of permeates your whole being. And the more that we do that, the more it sort of lays down the tracks in our mind and the neural pathways. And that just becomes more and more a reality. So what they say about, what you focus on expands is so freaking true. So if you're walking around looking at, politics, if you're looking at the politics of fear that we have everywhere right now, then you're going to start thinking, like everybody's out to get me, or it's us versus them. And that sort of, you know what I mean? And that just becomes your reality. And you will start seeing all of those things, because the brain is always trying to reinforce our belief system. So if your belief system is that I'm a victim or things happen to me, then anytime somebody cuts you off in traffic, you're going to go, see that? Or anytime, your bill, you get a late fee or something and you thought that you shouldn't have. And, that's just reinforcing, like, see, everybody's out to get me. I'm going to be, like screwed. But if you're looking at life thinking like amazing things happen every single day, there is so much love and joy in the world, then you will see that. You will see the person that holds the door for you when you go into the grocery store. you will look people in the eye in a way that you didn't before. So this is like, it's really conscious mindset shifting. And when I was really in my 20s and when I was a teenager, I was really angry. There was a lot of stuff that happened in my life that I was really, really angry about, and I lashed out at people. And I made a concerted effort to shift that. And it, like I said, there's no stepping off the cliff. It's just every day. It's just modifying your behavior, changing the way that you think, looking at the things that make you happy and letting go of the things that don't, because then when you focus on that, that becomes your reality. So yeah, like mindset stuff for me is all of that. The term mindset, has this like a little, I don't know, gimmicky kind of sounding,
Yes.
but really it's about your outlook. How are you looking at the world, and what do you believe about yourself? Because every single one of us has a really thorough soundtrack of stories that we are constantly telling ourselves, and we're not conscious of it. That's all subconscious training that we've picked up from our families, from the people that we hang out with, from our jobs, from our bosses, from TV, from magazines, all of this stuff. And so if you want to shift where you're going in life, you have to get conscious of some of that and consciously start putting in things that will kind of flip some of those scripts around so that you are looking at life in the way that you consciously want to look through it, at it through. You know what I mean?
Right. No, I totally agree with all of that. And perspective is a huge thing for me, and I really try to look from other people's perspectives as well. But it's difficult when you have some people that are generally negative in their outlook and victimizing, as you said. It's really difficult to interact with them. But also at the same time, we were talking about friend. You mentioned you don't have to call that friend that you don't want to talk to, kind of thing, and that goes along with keeping the right people in your life. And I know there's an idea that you are the qualities of the 5 closest people in your life, or something along those lines, because I do get that with mirroring and with interacting with people. But when it comes to, and I'm trying to formulate this as I go, because there's an idea there. But when it comes to decluttering life as opposed to things, is that something you also coach on? And is that something that's more difficult for people, or can they just like flip a switch and they're able to do something? Okay, I see that. Head shake.
Yeah. No, that's a fantastic question, because it does sort of seem like those are separate things. But the fact is that our spaces, we manifest everything in our lives, right? We bring everything into our lives in some way. So if we're talking about our physical space, we've brought in the couch, the dishes that, our mother-in-law bought for us, the stuff that we bought at the mall the day that we were really pissed off and we were doing some comfort shopping, that sort of thing, right? So we're constantly doing this. And again, it's not always really conscious. Some of the stuff we just kind of do on autopilot, and that's when you have to sort of stop and investigate what's actually going on and what is the sort of behavior and where do you actually want to be going. So there's like no differentiation between your mindset work, your outlook, and the space that you live in, because your space mirrors what's happening inside of you. Some people have like really creative minds where like there's just a bunch of different things going on, and so their physical space can look like that. And some people have like, they're like major control freaks. I worry more about the people whose homes I walk into that are like pristine and everything has its exact place, than people who have, the pile of towels on their couch, or like the people who have it locked down where it's like nobody even lives there, honestly. And I don't mean that from a judgy place at all. It's just like if you're spending that much time on your space and you are controlling every element of it, how much joy are you experiencing? Because life is messy, right?
Yeah.
So if you are like, and if that's like your top priority, and I know for some people, like for me, I'm very, very, very sensitive to space. So it's really important to me that my space is really pretty and that things are, a certain way. But that's not the same thing as like being like really anal retentive. You cannot eat off of my floors. Please do not eat off of my floors. That's totally gross. You'd get something really nasty from them. Like there's there's like different levels of that, right? And like, so whereas like my space feels really open and very, very calm and very peaceful, like it's not the same thing as it's like, there's always crap in my house. There's there's always business stuff around, my kids' stuff, my husband's stuff. And that's totally normal. Like, I don't think a thing about that. So I think having, just sort of like looking at our space and how we're interacting with it, can often tell us like what's actually happening in our outside world. So I often will work with people who are kind of at a juncture or a cusp in their lives. So they'll be like, about to go through a divorce, or they're about to like leave the country or move to a different state or change jobs, or one of their parents just died and they took on all of their parents' stuff, or they had a kid or their kids are leaving. So it's like all of a sudden the stuff that is happening with that decluttering in their lives comes to like an impasse, and they realize that they're not really functioning in their space. So there's always a lot of coaching around like, well, what do you want the next phase to look like? What do you want your life to look like? What would you like to have less of? And I don't just mean dishes. I mean, like, would you like to be doing less volunteer work? Would you like to be doing more volunteer work? Would you like to quit your job? Would you like to do something completely different? Do you want to go travel more? Do you want to travel less? There are like a million different permutations of any of that. So it's very much about, like I keep saying this, you just have to get kind of conscious. And sometimes it just helps to have somebody who's there who can like help bounce ideas, because we're so in our own heads. We cannot see our own stuff. We cannot. I mean, this is why I have coaches. Like, I don't do this all by myself. I do my own stuff. I have to get, somebody to go like, Lisa, hello. Like, what are you doing over there?
Yeah.
And, that's why like human beings are built to be together. We are built to be together. And when we try to do everything on our own, that's when we get into trouble.
Yeah. Yep. I totally get that. And when you're talking about decluttering your life, one thing that I've noticed, especially in my parents' generation, is that their need to be stuck to these obligations that they don't necessarily have to be stuck to, or their obligations to people, or they feel like they're obligated to specific things. And I'm trying to break some people of that habit, but at the same time, it's totally up to them. Is there anything that you see happening with people and you try to give them advice around it and they just won't budge? Does that happen often with you?
That's a good question. I think I'm the sort of coach that, I'm willing to have the uncomfortable conversations with people, and I like to push people, but I don't like to shove people. Yeah. So I'm like really good at reading where they are and what they're willing to do, because I'm just really, really paying attention to them. So I actually don't run into that, because I would never like really, if I was watching what they were doing, I wouldn't push too hard on a particular issue, because I don't think you're going to be receptive to that today or during this conversation. Or, there can be a lot of extraneous things going on. So I'm just always paying attention to that. So no, I don't. And I also, I actually don't give unsolicited advice.
Good.
So, yeah, I keep it to myself. And so if somebody asks me, like if a client says, well, what do you think I should do about this? And I'll say, you want my honest opinion? And they'll be like, yeah. I'm like, okay, here it comes.
Mm-hmm.
You asked for this, and I always say it with total love and respect, because
Mm-hmm.
you can't kick somebody in the teeth and expect them to change. It's just not going to happen. So my belief is just, you have to meet people where they are, match where they are, and then push them a little bit. Come on, you can do it. I know you can do it. And then, cheerlead the hell out of them while they're doing it. Cause that's what motivates us. We want to please one another. Right. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. And I think you brought up an excellent point about generations, because it makes a huge difference. There are, cultural differences, age, generational differences, regional differences. People who live in the Midwest, my mother is from Kansas, tend to have this really, really strong work ethic and are like, by God, I said I was going to do it, and I'll do it to my last dying breath.
Yep.
So
yep. I see that a lot.
And I've made that commitment, by gum, and my word is, my pact, and I will follow through with that. Yeah. So I recognize that. And so with that sort of personality, or that sort of upbringing, or, way of looking at the world, you have to sort of get into the mind of somebody who thinks like this. Okay, well, let's back it up a little bit. Is there something that you could do a little bit less of? Is there something that you could add a little bit more of, to get it so that your life is feeling more aligned with who you are and where you actually want to be going, and not just about the constraints and responsibilities and things that you feel like that you should do? How can we break that a little bit so that it's not so like that?
Right. Well, and do you find that you talk with a lot of people, just in general, not even just as clients, who are coming from a place of lack, and that, not just in their, I guess it would be mindset, but they feel like they either didn't have enough growing up, and so they're compensating for that, or they don't have enough now, and so they're trying to find that, and you can tell in their spaces, or in the way that mainly in their spaces, I guess, or in their headspace, I guess, even if you're talking with them. Is that something that you can easily spot?
Yeah, because it's ubiquitous. Yeah. I think though that we're trained to think like that. I think some of it is generational. So if you have people that grew up in the Depression, or that are children of people who grew up in the Depression, there's definitely a very realistic fear, right? I mean, that's if you have nothing, and yeah, I mean, that's where you're coming from. And of course you're going to have some issues around that. And then there are the rest of us who didn't grow up with that, but grew up with a constant media presence that tells us that we are not enough, that we are not thin enough, pretty enough, smart enough, fast enough, chic enough, that if we just do this, then we will be okay. And what okay means is that we will be accepted. And exception, if you think about humanity in terms of an evolutionary scale, we have to be accepted. If we are not accepted, we'll die. And so we are hardwired to want to be around other people. We want to be accepted. We want to be liked. We want for people to value our skill set. And that's just part of humanity. And marketers have figured out how to really exploit that. And so it's our deepest desire to be accepted and loved. And if you buy X, Y, and Z, then you will have that. And on some subconscious level, we really do believe that. Oh, this is the cute thing on Pinterest. Sometimes it's just the cute thing on Pinterest, but sometimes it's oh, her butt is really good in those jeans. I wonder if I could get my butt to look like those in those jeans.
Yeah.
Maybe, and then you're clicking around on the diet stuff or the food stuff or whatever. And there's, if I make these cookies, my family will love me more. There's all kinds of crazy things that we tell ourselves, and we all do it. So the lack is the lack of self-worth, of lack of belief in ourselves, the lack of willingness to stand out, So we kind of get into this herd mentality that is really detrimental. So I see a ton of clients that buy houses in the suburbs. They have their 2,500 square feet or their 3,000 square feet so that their kids can go to the good schools. And they get into these corporate jobs that they really don't like, but they did the degree because their parents said that they needed to make the money. And it's the responsible thing to do. That's the American dream. You buy the house, then you fill up the house, and you end up having all of this stuff. And they've not really, and they're filled with all this sort of existential angst. They're like, there's something wrong with me. I don't fit in. I don't feel good. I'm always watching TV. I'm always, I'm having weight issues. I'm always checked out. I drink too much, whatever. And really what that is I'm not who I'm supposed to be. I've just done the thing that I was supposed to do. Mm-hmm. So that's the stuff that I coach on. I'm over there going, like rattling some cages and going, no, you don't actually have to do it that way. Yes. You really can quit your job and move to Africa. You absolutely can go help, build stuff in a different country. You can quit your job and start building airplanes if you want to. It really doesn't matter. And there's, it's that sort of, expansiveness that is really surprising to people who have that lack mentality. And, lack is all like, people will have houses full of stuff, and it's not because they love the stuff, because they want the stuff. They complain and bitch about the stuff, but then they keep buying more of the stuff, right? So it's this vicious cycle, and then they don't spend time in their homes because they're not comfortable in their homes because their homes aren't functional. So it's like this mess. But when I start saying, how about this? Do you need this? And they're like, well, but this is the thing. And I really kind of need to also have one of these. And I got this on sale and I spent, $30 on this thing. And so we're digging under that. We're digging like this. What is this? What does this actually mean? And I don't have a dog in this hunt. I don't really care what people have, how much stuff they have or whatever, but it has to be working for them. That's my bottom line. It's if it's not functioning, if you're being held back in your life by the stories you're telling yourself about your stuff, then you're not living a life that would be a hell of a lot more fun. Yeah. If you work through some of that.
Yeah. And that's huge. And you talk about, the big houses and filling them with stuff. That's one of the things right now as we're starting to look for another, because we're in an apartment right now, and we're looking to rent a house or another apartment. And I just don't want to go bigger because I'm like, well, then we have to have furniture to fill that space. Yeah. And I don't want more stuff to just, it offers space for me to make a mess at this point in my life. But at the same time, since becoming an entrepreneur and working for myself, mainly at home, I have been much better about keeping things a little more tidy and also going through things a little more often because I am here in this space all day. And it is something that I notice, and it's something I want to make my bed daily. And I've told you this before. My husband always asks why we're the only people who see it. And it's because I'm here all day and I do see it. And it's just sure. When it is a big pile of blankets, it's not, I don't know. It just spreading a sheet out makes things look so much better and clears my mind more. And that's something I've really noticed also in the last year is how much clutter is reflected in the blocks, the mind blocks I have in business and other areas.
But we will spend a solid week going, let me pick that thing up. I'm just going to leave it there. I'm going to see how long it takes for him to pick it up. I can't even believe he's walked around that 5 times. And you're not saying anything, not doing anything. We do the same thing to ourselves. We do the same things to our kids. Meanwhile, having this mental conversation is taking up bandwidth where you could be creating that awesome program, that could be spent making yourself the awesome green smoothie that you actually really want to be having for breakfast every day. But because there's so much crap that's out that it's, you're going like, I'll deal with that later. I'll do this later. And if there's enough of those things, then we're like splitting our attention. And I find like, I really believe in like the 2-minute rule. So I'm going to encourage you, my friend, to do that this week. The 2-minute rule, which is if it will take you less than 2 minutes, go freaking do the thing. Quit thinking about it and go take some action. And I'm telling you, my timer is my very best friend.
Yeah.
I use it all the time in work. I use it like if I'm writing a blog post, if I'm doing something for my business that I really don't want to be doing, I use the Pomodoro technique. Pomodoro has apps. It's brilliant because it's basically you work for 20 minutes and then you take a 10-minute break. You work for 20 minutes, you take a 10-minute break. And the other thing is like using a timer to give yourself a time limit. I really don't like cleaning the kitchen. But I like having a clean kitchen, and I hate wanting to like cook myself some lunch and there's all this stuff left over from breakfast. That's just annoying to me. So I like make little bargains with myself when there's like household stuff that I don't want to do. And I'm not Martha Stewart. Actually Martha Stewart has a team, but you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like that's not my forte. Like cleaning stuff is not like my idea of a good time. But I do clean it because I like the end result. It's like exercise, same thing, right? So I will set myself a timer for 10 minutes and just say, I'm gonna clean the kitchen for 10 minutes. And at the end of 10 minutes, I'm walking away and calling that done. And if the floor is nasty or I didn't take the garbage out to the garbage can or whatever, so be it. It's just 10 minutes. So giving yourself some parameters and checking yourself mentally when you are really getting stuck on, the stories of like, I do this all the time. He never does this. I never do this. He always does this. All those sort of mental things that we do to ourselves. Give yourself a 2-minute check and just go do the thing. I guarantee you'll feel better. I guarantee it. 100%. I'll write you a check. Money back guarantee.
Right. For birthdays, Christmas, whatever holidays that you celebrate, what is gift giving like at your house? Is it something that never mind. I'm just going to let you answer that. I'm not going to lead it, but what is gift giving like at your house?
Simple. Simple. Really, really, really simple. Yeah. When my kids were little, the grandparents were all really excited because we had the first grandchild, and oh my God, we got so much stuff. And I was like, have you guys been to our house? I'm pretty sure you have, because there's like no place to actually put all this stuff. That's kind of funny. So like I had to like train all the grandparents over probably about 4 years to really back down on that. And that's a very tricky situation because grandparents want to buy stuff and it's fun and all of that. But I was like, this is really stressing me out. And I know that you guys are doing this out of love and you want to show your love and all of that. And it's just fun for you guys, but it's a really hard thing for me because we were being in a really small space at the time. So that kind of trained them into backing down. So our birthdays and were like one big gift and a small handful of little things. We kind of have like a monetary limit. And our kids know what to expect. And I talk a lot about environmentalism in my house. So we're really conscious about buying things that are going to last a long time. We're going to buy things that are better quality, the best quality that we can afford. And if we can't afford it, then we're not going to buy it, because I don't want to just buy stuff that's fun in the moment that's going to end up in a landfill for thousands of years. That's not fun for me to think about the legacy of 10 minutes of pleasure for me, so I have a hard time with that. So yeah, it's pretty straightforward. We also buy a lot of consumables. I'm a big fan of consumables. So like, make me a jar of the salsa that you're so well known for and give that to me, or buy the super cool like handmade candle that somebody, in our community made or something like that. I love stuff like that. That makes me super happy. So stuff that I can use up and enjoy and, and then it goes away.
Yeah. They're not forever gifts. I like
No, not usually.
I like it. Holidays are big at my house and birthdays
Are they?
huge, and oh my gosh, yes. So that's something that I'm very good. I pride myself in my gift giving because I pay attention throughout the year and I remember well of what people want. So I'm not doing the knick-knacky things. But when I was little, it would be like, oh, my sister would like that doll. Oh, my sister would like that. And it would just be like so many gifts. And then some of them are like, why did I get that for her? But I've gotten really, really good at it. But yeah, it's a lot of stuff, and I'm hoping more to do. I like your idea of the consumables. Consumables and experiences are more of what I'm.
Yeah.
So tickets to this, or things like that.
Did you read the 5 Love Languages? Do you know that book?
I know the ideas, like the main idea of it. I've not read the book.
You should read the book. I love that book. I haven't read it in like 10 years, but when I read it, it made a big imprint on me. And one of the things that he talks about is like the idea is that we all show love in our own love language. We show love in the way that we want to receive love, in a way that shows us. So, and that doesn't always match up with our lives or with our spouses. So it can get a little hairy. So what I have found is that most of my clients, their love language is gift giving.
Mm-hmm. I love giving gifts.
They love to get gifts and they love to buy them. So they are always like these really generous people, super thoughtful, super kind-hearted, always thinking about other people's needs. And so they will fill up their own spaces with gifts that they intend on giving to whomever. And with my clients, they end up not giving a lot of this stuff away, not because they're holding it back by any means. They just can't find it. Mm-hmm. So they will keep buying it. They usually have like huge stashes of like gift wrapping paper and gift bags and all of the stuff and like lots of party decorations. And these are people that like love to, to throw parties and to shower people with gifts and that sort of thing. So anyway, I find that book really interesting. I find that really helpful because oftentimes people will marry people who don't have the same love language. Yeah. And so it can be frustrating because you're like, I did all this stuff for you. And the spouse is like, thanks. And for them, it might be like acts of service is their love language. And so they really want you to like do something for them, like go wash my car. See how much I love you. I washed your car. But anyway, I just think that that's a really helpful book in life in general, but also really when it comes to your stuff, because if you can kind of get a handle on that, it gives you another layer of understanding about your stuff, what sort of stuff you like to buy, why do you buy it, that sort of thing.
Cool. I will definitely keep that in mind. Maybe that's the next book club book. Maybe that's what I'll do.
Hey,
get everyone to read it. If only I get my husband to read it too.
Yeah. You know what? I'm like, I do really enjoy this book. There are a couple of books like that really inform how I run my business and like sort of the things that I pick up on. So I'll say to people like, if you want to read the book, read it. And then like, but that your spouse isn't going to, just like put a sticky note on like the page or the 2 pages that actually like are at the, like bam, here you go. This is what you need to know. Yeah. And just sort of vet it for them, like pull it out and then they're more willing to actually read and, just be like, oh, I think this is really interesting.
Yeah.
And don't like put anything else on it. Just let them draw their own conclusions. Anyway.
All right. I will take that advice and I'll let you know if it ends up being our book club material for the month of September.
I love it.
All right. And with that, I want to go into this Pivot questionnaire. So I'm asking everyone these 10 questions. that were made by Bernard Pivot for a French television show and then adapted for Inside the Actors Studio, which is one of my favorites and is also one of the inspirations behind this that we're doing right now. So, are you ready?
Okay.
All
Okay.
right. All right. What is your favorite word?
My favorite word? Gosh, the first thing that popped to my mind was flexibility. Wow, what a really boring answer. Flexibility.
Hey, it's not a bad
Okay.
word.
Okay.
Okay. Right now, that's your favorite word. What is your least favorite word?
Chunks.
Oh,
I hate that word.
oh,
That's a, like, as in blowing. And so, like, in with my kids, like, everything is like chunks, like chicken chunks at their school. Like that's what they have. And so my kids and my husband all love to say that word to me because it elicits reaction. I'm like, oh God, just no,
yeah.
zip it. No chunks.
Oh,
No chunks of time either, because it still sounds like that. Like, I actually do talk about periods of time. I say that a lot in my work, but you'll never hear me say chunks of time.
oh, all right. What turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
Oh, space.
I like
Space. in every mental space, physical space, creative space. Yeah, breathing room, super, super important to me. That probably goes without saying.
I love it. What turns you off?
Restrictiveness. Any sort of restrictiveness, it makes me crazy. Even if I know it's good for me, I still rebel against it. Totally.
Yeah.
Like, you told me I have to? No.
Right. No, I totally get that. Don't tell me what to do.
Yeah. I definitely get in my own way sometimes that way.
Yeah. What is your favorite curse word?
Fuck.
I love it.
Say that a whole lot.
Yeah. What sound or noise do you love?
Birds. Birds make me really happy. Like driving with my windows down and listening to their little conversations as I'm driving through my neighborhood. Like, what y'all talking about? I love that. It makes me happy.
What sound or noise do you hate?
People eating. I hate that. Like, my kids used to really do this, and it was a little bit of a challenge for me. But they like when they're eating, again, it's like the chunks. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't want to hear what's going on there. Just eat it. And
What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Ew. Wow, you've totally stumped me on that. That's really interesting. I really love what I'm doing. Yeah, I don't have an answer for that. I'm like that's not actually a job. I was like, I really want to travel, but that's not actually a job. Like, that's not a career
You
path.
could do
But
like travel writing or travel photography or travel interviewing or
Ooh.
something like that.
Yeah, let's be travel photography buddies.
Okay.
I would like to do that. I'd really like to do that.
And then we'll be there to take pictures of each other too. So it's not just us taking pictures of other things.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Totally. I love it. Yeah, let's do it.
What profession would you not like to do?
Ooh, corporate anything. Oh, Lord, help me from no pantyhose. No, don't ever make me. No. And you know what? That drive in me is so strong that is like, I live in Atlanta. The traffic here is hideous, right? And you have to get in your car for pretty much everything. Every single job choice I have made since I've been in Atlanta, which has been over like 22 years, really long time that I lived here. And every single one, I'm like, I'm not wearing pantyhose and I'm not sitting in traffic. I will not do it. So like even my organizing business, I'm like, I will organize your house if you're like this far away from me, or I'll do it online. And I'm probably going to be wearing Birkenstocks and yoga pants. So those are my rules, my business. This is what I'm doing. So yeah, corporate where I have to like follow everybody else is not ever going to happen.
Mm-hmm. I love it. And again, it's for some people. I tried it. I didn't love it.
Oh, for sure.
There you go.
For sure. I don't mean to be dogging on anybody who's in the corporate world at all. I really, really don't. That's just like,
it's just you being authentically you.
It's so against my nature. It's just so against my nature. So I'm a big believer in doing what you want to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
So
I love it. Okay. Number 10, here's our final question. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Nice job. Nice job. That's what I want to hear.
I love it. This is so funny.
Job.
Out of all these questions, number 10 is always the one that people know immediately. It just comes to them. Really? I love it.
Oh, that's funny. That's great.
Thank you so much for being here with me today, Lisa. It has been an honor, and it's been so much fun. I adore talking with you.
Oh, same here. Thank you for asking me, honey. You know I love you, and this is so much fun. It's been really fun to do some deep diving into some of these things.
Good.
So, thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, and I will see you later. All right.
Okay. Bye.
Okay. Bye. Thank you so much to Lisa Sharp for being on the 5th episode of ChatConnect. You can find out more about Lisa at her website, www.clearcalmspace.com. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.